Well, very, very happy Monday morning to everyone, and welcome to the John Quintero Show on YouTube. San Diego Sports Talk. We're here each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for your listening pleasure, and thank you very much for tuning in. Hope everyone had a marvelous weekend. I certainly did. Get out and did a few things. Went to a high school football game on Friday night. Went to one of my grandchildren's soccer game on Saturday. Watched a lot of NFL on Sunday and ready to roll. We got a lot of things to cover. A baseball free agency, folks, starts today at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, the free agent window opens up. What will our San Diego Padres do? And before we dive into everything, number one, always want to thank you for tuning in on YouTube, San Diego Sports Talk, the John Quintero Show. And again, if maybe your first time, or maybe you've tuned in a few other times, would you please subscribe? It doesn't cost anything. We're trying to build our subscriptions up. And also, if you'd follow me on Facebook at John Quintero and on X at Coach Quintero 44, very much appreciated. And of course, on our YouTube page, you can dial in questions to us. I'd love to take your questions, and we'll take a lot of questions today. We got plenty of time to take questions, so you can start typing them in right now, and we'll drop them in throughout the course of the show. Baseball free agency. What are our San Diego Padres going to do? What can they do? What is their budget going to be for 2025? I think it'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $200 million with the players they have, contracts increase, arbitration. Will make some money for some of the players, namely, Dylan Cease and guys like Michael King, who's Luis Ariz. And we're going to be talking about them throughout the course of the week. But it's going to be very, very interesting. And I want to get you caught up on some things that happened at the end of the week after our show on Friday about Ha-Seong Kim. Ha-Seong Kim, as we expected, declined his part of the mutual option of $8 million. So his parting gift from the San Diego Padres will be $2 million. Now he will go out and become a free agent. And, I look back at Ha-Seong Kim's career over the week, and 4 seasons with the Padres, hit a combined 242, a 326 on base percentage, and a 706 OPS. 1,725 at bats, 47 homers, 200 RBIs, and 78 stolen bases. This past year, before he went down with season-ending surgery to that labrum tear in his right shoulder, he was starting to come on. He got off to a miserable start, but really was starting to swing the bat much better. Ended up in 2024 hitting 233, 11 homers, 47 RBIs, a 330 on base percentage. And I think you'd agree with me on this. If you go back to 2022, he played shortstop the year before Xander Bogaerts got here. And he was one of the finalists for the National League Gold Glove. And I really thought he should have won it that year. He didn't win it. And then they signed Xander Bogaerts to the long 11-year deal and put him at shortstop in 2023. And I thought Xander, for me, I thought he was okay. I mean, I guess if you start, throwing the range factor out there, he didn't have the range of some other guys, but you know what? He makes a routine play, and I'm fine with that. You're not going to make that spectacular play all the time. And there's no doubt Ha-Seong Kim is a very talented middle infielder. But in 2024, he moved back to second base. And I'll be honest with you, I thought he kind of struggled. When he moved back to shortstop this year after playing second a year ago, I thought he kind of struggled at times. And I think now you've got to gauge this shoulder, where he's at and, would he miss time? Padres can't afford to have guys start the year on the IL. And I think it's going to be very interesting because AJ Preller is saying all the right things right now about, we're going to monitor his progress. We're going to see where he's at. And all that's well and good. But the Padres need to have a legitimate everyday shortstop. And right now, I'm not sure they feel like they have one. I think you can win still with Xander Bogaerts at shortstop. I really do. I think, number one, he has to get back over there. He has to get a little bit more comfortable. And I think he probably needs to get himself in a little bit better shape. I mean, as you get older, you got to work harder to stay in shape. I think we all know that just in everyday life. But if Ha-Seong Kim came back and was 100% at the start of the year, I wouldn't mind seeing him come back. but I think his price tag is going to be too high. I think there's going to be somebody out there that buys into him, and they're going to pay him, $12 million a year or $14 million a year because they want that shutdown defender. And again, if you go back and look at what he did in 2024 at shortstop, it wasn't anywhere close to what he did in 2022, in my opinion. Now, you go back to 2023 when he played second base, he won the Gold Glove, and deservedly so. I mean, he's a talented defender. I mean, he won Gold Gloves in the KBO, and ground balls work the same way in the big leagues as they do in the KBO. Maybe they're on average hit a little bit harder, but the kid's a talented defender, 29 years of age. For some team that's trying to, be pushed over the top, if he's healthy, wouldn't be a bad sign. But I don't know if the Padres can pay an arm and a leg to keep Ha-Seong Kim. So it looks like right now, probably not coming back. But if he does, I'm not going to be too upset. You know why? The guy's a pro and he plays his ass off. And he's a winning ball player for me. Not only that, he can run a little bit. 78 stolen bases. You go back to his first year, his rookie year, he struggled with the bat. But the last 3 years has been pretty good. After that first year, you knew he could feel, but you were kind of wondering, man, can he catch up to the major league fastball? Well, he made the adjustment, worked hard. He's a winning ball player. I wouldn't mind seeing him come back. Now, the other guy on Friday that made a decision to come back, and I think it was probably a good decision. You talk about a sweetheart contract. How about Wandy Peralta, the left-hander? He exercised his player option for 2025 at $4.25 million to remain with the club. And you know what? I know a lot of people got tired of seeing Wandy Peralta come out of the bullpen because he gave up some big bombs. And at times didn't pitch very well, and then he went down with that groin strain for a while. But think about this. He pitched in 46 games, 38 in the third innings. 3-2 record and a 3.99 ERA. Gave up 6 homers and, 38 in the third innings. Not great. And they were some key home runs, I think we would all agree. And the fans booed him a little bit at Petco Park from time to time. But this guy's got a great deal with the Padres. And I figured he would, opt in. He wasn't going to opt out. Think about this. Wandy Peralta not only has 2025, but he has, in his contract, he has player options for 26 and 27 at $4.45 million. I don't know if that's a good sign. But, I guess AJ felt that he had to make that type of sign because they needed guys in the bullpen, and Peralta was coming off a pretty good year. That's a lot of money for Wandy Peralta, the way I see it. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about this young kid over in Japan, Roki Sasaki. There's a lot of information out on him right now. And I'm not going to sit here on my podcast and throw out all the stuff I'm hearing. We've heard he's opted out with the Chiba Lotte Marines, his team over in the Japanese league. There are rumors that he could sign with the Dodgers for $4 million. Those are all rumors. There's no factual evidence that that's going to happen. And I'm not going to sit here and put a lot of time in on it, but I know it's out there on the web, but I don't want to get into it because I don't have solid information. And one thing, if you followed me for a long period of time, I'm all about getting solid information, not, just throw out the rumor mill stuff to get people to give me clicks on the internet. Okay. I'm not that type of guy. But I'm keeping my finger on it because this guy's a talented guy. I've read up a lot on him. He's been dominant over in Japan. He's been handled very, very carefully. In fact, his first year at pro ball when he was 19 really didn't pitch a whole lot. They've really, done a good job of protecting this kid's arm. He broke Shohei Ohtani's record in high school. He threw 101 miles an hour, threw a pitch at 101 miles an hour in high school. And, a year ago at this time, there was a lot of talk that, he may end up with the Padres. Well, I'm not sure that's going to be the case at this point in time. And he's a talented guy. And let's face it, Japan loves the Dodgers. And they've got 2 great stars up there with the Dodgers right now. He may be headed there. We'll have to wait and see. I'm sure the Padres would put in a bid. I'm sure the Yankees would put in a bid. I'm sure the Mets would put in a bid. Toronto would probably put in a bid. They seem to be wanting to go after just about everybody. But as the week goes on and free agency opens up, and he wouldn't be eligible to sign this week anyways, We're going to kind of keep our eye and see how this thing unfolds with Roki Sasaki. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Nothing, real solid. I did want to mention the shortstop position a little bit here. Um, and probably the number one guy on the free agent market as far as shortstops available is Willy Adames of Milwaukee. He was with Tampa Bay and, he hit some home runs, but didn't hit for much of an average. He spent time now in Milwaukee and he's become a different player. Number one, he's become a team leader. He had 251 this past year. The other thing that I love about him, he plays every day. He played 161 games. He's like Manny Machado. He wants to be in that lineup day in and day out. And he had a hell of a year. I mentioned 251. He had 33 doubles, 32 bombs, and 112 RBIs. And of course, he's rumored to go to the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers are rumored to get everybody. Corbin Burns, Willy Adames, Juan Soto, Blake Snell. Everybody's supposed to be going to the Dodgers. How much more money can the Dodgers spend? Seriously. How much more money can they spend? So we'll have to wait and see on that. The other shortstops available, and kind of going back to Ha-Seong Kim, not a lot out there. How does this float your boat? And I want your opinion on this. So, get on and dial me up with a question. Willy Adames, number one. You got Ha-Seong Kim. You got Jose Iglesias, who's 35, who hit, well over 300 with the New York Mets, did a hell of a job. And the Padres a year ago in 2023 had him in AAA, and a guy that, prior to that, had some really good years in the big leagues. Padres never brought him up in 2023. I kept waiting. They never brought him up. He went to the Mets, had a good year, but he's 35 years of age. How about these guys? Paul DeYoung, over the hill. Kevin Newman, who spent last year with Arizona, 31 years of age, Poway High School, University of Arizona. Wouldn't be a bad sign. Get him cheap to be a utility guy. If you're looking for a utility guy, I could see Kevin Newman playing for the Padres. And then you got 29-year-old Ahmed Rosario, pretty good ball player. Brandon Crawford, who I think probably ought to retire. He's 38 years of age and really didn't look good with the Cardinals, got released. Alan Diaz, 34 years of age. I'll pass on him. And Tim Anderson, who's out of baseball right now, getting released this year at 32 years of age. I don't think you're going to bring him in. So that's what you got shortstop-wise. So the Padres, they're either going to have to re-sign Ha-Seong Kim, go with Bogarts, or they're going to probably have to make a trade because the free agent market for shortstops is awful. I mean, just pathetic, to be honest with you. Okay, I got 3 questions for you today, and we're going to do this, especially with free agency. We got to talk about Jurickson Profar. And, my take on Profar, do I want him back? Yes, but I want him back at a fair price, not overpay for Jurickson Profar. He's 32 years of age. What he did this past year, I'm not sure he can duplicate. But even if he didn't do that, he would still be a nice guy to be with the ball club. He's just a guy that fits in a Padre uniform. He's got the big smile. He's charismatic, good teammate, good locker room guy, and goes up and plays his tail off and wants to be in the lineup every day. I have no problem bringing Jurickson Profar back, but I'm not giving him $12 million a year. I'm not even giving him $10 million a year. He played last year for a $1 million contract. He certainly deserves a hell of a lot more. He got about another $1.5 million in incentives, brought about $2.5 million. I'd probably give him $8 million. I mean, how do you feel about that? Maybe even give him, because he keeps himself in really good shape. I would give him maybe a 2-year deal at about, $16 million with a club option and a mutual option for that 3rd year at maybe, $10 million. And you can make a decision whether or not after 2 years you want to bring him back for that 3rd. I don't know what he's looking for. And again, the stupidity, and I mean stupidity, of a lot of organizations. I saw the other day, Gary Sanchez, he had his option declined by Milwaukee. And Gary Sanchez did a great job with the Padres. He really did. But he was going to get, if Milwaukee would have brought him back, he was going to get $11 million. $11 million for Gary Sanchez, who's going to hit 218 and 220, and going to hit some home runs. Did a nice job for the Padres. Hit 19 home runs the year he was here, and did a nice job handling the catcher or the pitchers. And you know what? I thought he was a much better catcher than people told us he was. He did a really, really nice job. He worked very hard, but I can't bring Gary Sanchez in here. But that's what I'm talking about. Stupid money. To even put that in a contract that a guy like Gary Sanchez would get $11 million, and he wasn't even the starting catcher in Milwaukee. So that's kind of ridiculous. But on Profar, getting back to him, I'm going to try to work out a deal. And I don't think you're going to have to break the bank unless he gets greed. Remember when he opted out of his deal after the 2022 season? He could have been making good money, but he opted out, signed with Colorado, and played bad baseball, and they released him. Padres, as I predicted on my radio show at the time, they'll sign him to a minor league contract. He'll be back with the big league club, and that's exactly what happened at the end of 2023. And he came back in 2024 and had a career year. Played great baseball all the way around, no question. Okay, so give me your comments on Profar, what you think. Switch hitter, still runs pretty well, plays a very decent left field. No problem. I'm just not going to overpay. I'm not going to pay. Let's see. Dara, Jurickson Profar, 3 years, $7 million a year with huge incentives. You know what? That's fair. I think that's a fair contract. That third year, though, I start to get worried when guys are 35. But maybe an option, a mutual option for that third year. But a 3-year deal is probably fair at $7 million per. I could buy into that. Okay, the other things I want to talk about in these 3 questions. Tanner Scott, great season, career year for him. He's going to make some big money. I think he's as good as gone. I don't think the Padres can afford to keep him. I really don't. Kyle Higashioka. Now, I read a list of catchers in my last podcast, and it was beyond awful. It was actually worse than the shortstops, if you can believe that. But Higashioka worked very well with the pitching staff. He had a career high 17 home runs. He's going to hit probably 220, maybe 230. Got a little power. He can pull the ball. I'd like to see him come back. He's going to be 35 years of age. I'd like to see him come back at a fair price. He was making 2.4, I think, last year. Give him a little bump. Maybe 3, maybe even 3.5 million, depending on how much you think you're going to use them. But I can't give him 4 or 5 million a year. I mean, he had a great year, kind of like Profar. It was his career year. Is he ever going to be able to repeat that? Probably not. I'll be honest with you. I hope he doesn't. You know why? Because I think they need to upgrade the catching position. I don't think Elias Diaz will be back. Luis Camposano. What do you do? If you're a Padre fan, give me an opinion. We've been watching Luis Camposano for years now, and he finally earned and won the starting catcher's job. And then he got hurt a little bit, and he came back and was never the same. He hit 227 last year. I mean, you want to go down that road again? See, I think if you look at good ball clubs and teams that win the World Series, you got to have a dynamite catcher. I mean, I look at the Yankees. Austin Wells is a good young catcher, does a great job behind the plate, and he's going to get his fair share of hits. By the way, I tried to recruit Austin Wells when he was at Bishop Gorman. I tried to recruit him for John Boggs, but his dad was in charge. I think if his mother had been up to her, I think John would have got him. Just because she used to work for the Padres many years ago. But Austin Wells is a guy that I've been watching since high school, and I love. I think he does a great job behind the plate. And then Will Smith up there with the Dodgers, damn good catcher. Alvarez, the guy with the Mets, when he really bears down, hell of a catcher. But he gets a little sloppy back there from time to time. But to be a great ball club, you got to have a good catcher. Like the old days, you got to be strong up the middle. And the Padres have really got to focus in. I know they keep talking about Ethan Salas, but let's get real here. I know he's doing well in the Arizona Fall League. I know he'll get a lot of opportunities in spring training. But again, let's not forget, he had 206 in high A ball last year. Let's don't rush the kid. Defensively, very talented. I'm a big Ethan Salas fan, but I don't want to see the kid rushed. Let's give him a little time. Let's let him get a little more work. Let's see how he does in Double A. I'm sure he'll be in Double A this year. We don't need to get him to the big leagues because if we have to get him to the big leagues right now, Padres are really desperate, and that's not a good thing. So we'll see what they do. I'm an old catcher and a guy that worked a lot with pitchers, and I'm always interested in the catching position. So we'll see what goes on there. Okay, one of my favorites, and I talked about this guy for years when he was with Arizona. And I was hoping in 2022, when I knew his contract was up, I knew that they were going to deal him. I was really hoping the Padres would make a deal with Arizona to get David Peralta. They didn't. He ended up going to Tampa Bay. And then in 2023, he ended up signing with the Dodgers and did a nice job as a complimentary player with the Dodgers. And then this last year was in camp with the Cubs. Wasn't going to make the opening day roster, opted out of his deal. Padres signed him, and David Peralta was a savior considering Fernando went down with the injury. Peralta did a hell of a job. But he's up there. He's long in the tooth. Do you want to bring David Peralta back? Can he redo again in 2025 what he did in 2024? I think so. You know why? A couple of reasons. Number one, I still think he's got good bat speed. Number two, the guy keeps himself in great shape. And number three, he's a grinder. I always love to tell the story about David Peralta because to me, this epitomizes what baseball is all about. He was in the Cardinal organization. And, he was toiling down there as a pitcher and he hurt his shoulder. Ended up having shoulder surgery, tried to come back. Cardinals release him. And then he goes, you know what? I want to play baseball. And so he started working at a McDonald's and he played independent baseball for 3 years. And the reason he worked at McDonald's, wasn't making any money. He was trying to put gas in his tank of his car so he could get to and from his games. And to pay his bills, he worked at a McDonald's. And then he gets signed by the Diamondbacks and works his way up in a very short period of time and gets to the big leagues. Now he's been in the big leagues over 10 years. That's what grinders do. And Peralta's a great grinder, a big fan of David Peralta. Whether he comes back or not, I'm glad he got to wear the Padre uniform for a short period of time. But you know what? Sign him to a minor league contract, bring him to camp, unless somebody else is going to give him a major league contract, and they very well may. But, you want to keep him off the 40-man roster right now. So sign him to a minor league deal, bring him to camp, see how he fares. And then if he's not going to make the club, you release him, he goes somewhere else. I would do the same thing with Donovan Solano. Donovan Solano, had a really good year, but, he kind of struggled there at the end for a variety of reasons. Number one, he's having to play every day, and he's getting up there in years, into his high 30s at this point in time, but a good major league ball player, solid. Those guys, and everybody used to joke about me when in my open on radio, it always said, you got to have veterans coming off the bench. Well, let me tell you something. Veterans coming off the bench are key, and those guys did a hell of a job this year. They really did. The other guy that really didn't get much play, but did a nice job, Tyler Wade, he did a nice job. But Martin Perez, the left-hander, A.J. Preller signed him when he was 16 years of age with Texas. I would imagine they're going to try to work out a deal. He can be a back end of the rotation guy. Did a very nice job. But again, I'm not going to pay him $10 million to be the fifth starter. Maybe, 6 to 8 million, but I'm not giving him 10 million. So we'll see where it goes. But those five guys right there, Scott, Higashioka, Peralta, Solano, Perez, I could see them all coming back except Scott. I just think Tanner Scott's going to get too much money somewhere else is what I'm thinking. Okay, we're going to take your questions right now. If you're out there and want to dive in with some questions, we got plenty of things to talk about today. But I do want to get to Jackson Merrill, and then we're going to kind of jump around a little bit here on the show. I want to get into the Aztecs, and I want to talk about the field at Snapdragon Stadium. Roki will be a great addition. I'm hoping re-signing Niebla will influence Roki into signing with us. Shohei was able to get a lot of endorsements on the Angels. I can see Roki doing the same in San Diego. We're going to find out. And we're going to talk more on Wednesday about Ruben Niebla. Because remember, his contract's up at this point in time. They got to figure out what they're doing with him. And kind of the same thing with Mike Schild, even though Mike Schild has 1 year left to go. We'll talk more about that as the week goes on. We got a lot to cover. And let me tell you, with free agency opening up, when I come on the air Wednesday morning at 9:30, oh, we're going to have so much to talk about. We may have to blow up the internet that day. Mike Lopez, Ha-Seong Kim may go to the Dodgers. You know what? That could happen. That would not surprise me. They picked up the option on Miguel Rojas. He's 35, going on 36. Did a great job, a team leader. They got Tommy Edman. They still got Chris Taylor. And Chris Taylor's still under contract. I don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to buy him out or they're going to try to bring him back. They tried to use him in every which way they possibly could as a pinch runner, center fielder, late inning defensive replacement. The guy just can't hit anymore. He's made no adjustments at the plate. So Mike, you may be right. They may go after Ha-Seong Kim. And the thing about the Dodgers are smart. Dodgers just don't go out and sign guys to sign guys. They always have a reason why they're signing a guy and how they think that guy can get better by coming to their organization. Pedro, love your show, Coach. See you all the time see you all the time down here in Guadalajara, Mexico. Keep up the great work. Pedro, thank you very much. Very much appreciate that. I've got one of my ball players not swinging real well right now. He's playing for Mexicali in the Mexican League. Winton Bernard, who played in the big leagues briefly with Colorado, not swinging the bat all that well, but he'll get going. A good hitter. Won a Pacific Coast batting title a couple of years ago and won another minor league batting title years ago in the Midwest League. But I'm a big Mexico baseball fan. Those people down there absolutely love the game of baseball. And I check out the scores in Winter League every night. It's kind of funny. It's kind of almost like a hobby. I like to see what's going on, what U.S. players are playing down there in the winter. Ricky, good morning, Coach. What's the Padres' biggest need? Starting pitching, relievers, defense, or hitters? I think starting pitching. With Joe Musgrove being out, I think you got to go with starting pitching. I heard a rumor the other day that people were talking about, maybe the Padres would trade Dylan Cease. Going to be the last year of his deal. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I think you got to bring Dylan Cease back. And if for some reason you fell out of it, and I expect the Padres to be in the playoffs in 2025. But if for some reason you fell out of it, then you trade him at the trading deadline if you think you can't make a push. But I think you got to keep him. And, the worst case scenario, he hits the free agent market and you get some type of draft compensation. We'll have to wait and see on that. But I think you got to bring him back. And, we'll see where it goes. I threw that out there a week or so ago. If you could only sign one guy, Cease or King, who would it be? For me, it would be King. I think a lot of people, it probably would be King, just more consistent. Even though I think Dylan Cease got great stuff and some of the best stuff in the game, but he's just not as consistent. We'll see how it goes this year, off season, working on some things, trying to get a little bit better, maybe get a little more comfortable with the Padre organization. We'll see where it goes. But thank you, Ricky, very much for that. I want to mention Jackson Merrill. And Jackson Merrill is just really, I mean, I was trying to think, Benito Santiago had an incredible rookie year back in 87 with the Padres, but Jackson Merrill had the best rookie year in the history of Padre baseball. No doubt about it, with his power numbers, his RBIs, the way he played defense. There was talk, least of all, they said there was talk prior to, spring training last year to sign him to a long-term contract. I don't know if the Padres are working on it right now or they want to do it, maybe before spring training. Remember, they've got 5 more years of control of Jackson Merrill. But you know what? I got news for you. The price went up after this past year. And I don't know if he can repeat next year, his sophomore year, if he can repeat what he did his rookie year. But you know what? I think he'll be close. The thing that amazed me, well, there are a lot of things that amazed me. Number one, the way he went about his business. I mean, he went about his business like a 10-year veteran. And then, when he would go into a slump, it didn't last long. He wasn't afraid to use the middle of the diamond or go the other way. He hit with far greater power than anybody, even himself, could have ever predicted in his rookie year. Drove in a ton of runs. Good base runner. But what he did defensively, and, I know sometimes in the Gold Glove, and they gave out the Gold Gloves last night. Uh, no Padres even nominated, and I didn't really have a problem with that. Fernando didn't play enough. The infield wasn't all that great. Manny could have been in there, but the guys that were the three finalists were awful good. I mean, it's hard to argue with those guys. Matt Chapman, Ryan McMahon, and Nolan Arenado. Matt Chapman wins it again, second straight year. Great defender, won Gold Gloves over in the American League, and now's won two with the Giants. But Padres didn't even have a guy nominated at any of the positions, and you have three guys that are up for it, and not one Padre. But nonetheless, Jackson Merrill played a great center field, tremendous center field, and for a kid that had never played there except maybe a couple of innings here and there in Little League, and I doubt that. Guy was amazing. I mean, he hadn't even played the outfield, let alone center field. And center field's the toughest spot to play. And he did a marvelous job. So I think the Padres are going to have to make a decision either before the start of this year or you wait till prior to the 2026 season. But I would think the way the Padres have worked in the past, I think you go ahead and work and try to get that deal done. So we'll see where that goes. We talked about the shortstops. Not good. I mean, Willie Adames and Ha-Seong Kim, and after that, it's a flip of the coin. Very, very marginal. I mean, some of those guys are going to get bargain basement deals. And I don't want to bring a guy in on a bargain basement deal that can't play. Save your money and put it towards some other area. Okay, I want to get to Aztec football. Aztec football Friday night was awful. I sat down. I was all fired up. I was going to a high school football game, but I wanted to watch the Aztecs. And by the time I left the house, they were getting creamed. They were down 35-10 at half. Ended up getting beat 56-24. Couple of things. Number one, Boise State's damn good. Number two, the Aztecs are a work in progress. Like I've said, nobody in their right mind would have ever thought the Aztecs could beat Boise State up in Boise. Boise State now, 7-1 and 4-0 in conference play, and they're great. But the Aztecs defensively just completely fell apart in that game. Offensively, it's a work in progress. But even with that, and I heard what Sean Lewis had to say after the game. I heard him on Sunday night after Sunday Night Football. They're not even close to Boise State. I don't care where you play that. They're nowhere close. He didn't like the way his guys played. Well, I got news for him. I didn't like the way his guys played either. But they're not even in the ballpark right now. I mean, they got run out of the stadium up there at Albertson Stadium on Friday night. They needed to buy a ticket to get back in the way Boise was pushing them around. But with that all being said, and I've been very complimentary of the Aztecs. I think they're doing a lot of good things. They just don't have enough of talent right now. This team could still get to a bowl game. Well, at least while they could get bowl eligible. Like somebody wrote to me over the weekend, well, even if they get bowl eligible, who's going to want San Diego State? Hey, believe me, with all the different bowls out there, you got the last few years, you've had teams go to bowl games with 5-7 records because they needed to fill up the bowls. Aztecs can still do it. They've got a game Friday night. I hope that's being played at Snapdragon Stadium. Well, I'm going to get into that in a minute. But they play against New Mexico. New Mexico can put some points on the board. They got beat at home over the weekend by Wyoming in a wild game, 49-45. They got beat. Wyoming's not very good. We know that. But the Aztecs play Friday night. Then they've got games against UNLV. Probably not going to win that one. Over at UNLV, they can beat Utah State, up at Utah State, and then they can beat Air Force, who's got one win right now. They got to win 3 out of 4. Can they do it? Yes. They lose one more, stick a fork in them, get ready for spring football and get ready for the 2025 season. But they can do it. They can do it. I think they can do it. And I've got confidence they can do it. But they've got to rebound. They've got to put what happened. They have to put what happened the other night in the rearview mirror, and they got to get ready for New Mexico, or New Mexico will get them at home. Okay, a couple of other things I want to talk about. And I kind of jumped over it. I was kind of excited early on. Before I get to the stadium, Snapdragon, I got to go back on the Padres. because I forgot to talk about this, and I want to talk about it. And I think it's going to be something that a lot of people have questions about, and that's about this young man from the Dominican Republic, Cesar Altagracia, who has been claiming he's 14 years of age, and he and his representatives have made a deal with the Padres that he would sign in the 2027 international signing for $4 million. Now it's been found out that the guy's 19 years of age. Padres have had no comment on this to this point. Kind of weird story. But you know what? In the Dominican Republic, Venezuela, a lot of weird stuff goes on. A lot of weird stuff goes on. This isn't the first time stuff like this has happened. But it's the contract has been pulled back, rescinded, the offer. Like I said, Padres have made no comment. This kid's 19 years of age, very talented, left-hand hitting shortstop. But now he'll be suspended, and he won't. I don't know what the suspension is going to be, or if it's going to take place starting in 2027. But you know what? How does this happen? How do the Padres think this guy is 14 and he's 19? I don't care. Even if there's a birth certificate that's, fraudulent, you got to figure that out. I mean, it's pretty amazing to me. But, we'll see where it goes. That broke on Friday. Okay, I want to get to Snapdragon. I've been down there for a bunch of events in the last year. And I've been at Aztec football games. And I've walked on the field after the game. When I go down to hear Sean Lewis speak, I usually walk down the stairs. I walk down the field, down and around. There's no easy way really to get to where they meet after the game. So a lot of times I walk on the field to and from. And I can tell you, a month ago, they put new grass in. Well, that grass hasn't taken. I watched the Aztec game a week ago on television. It looked awful. I brought it up on my podcast. It looked awful. And then last Thursday, the San Diego Wave FC, getting ready to play their last game, that ended up having to be moved to Louisville. And by the way, they won on Sunday 3-1 against Racing Louisville. Congratulations, Landon Donovan. It was a brutal year for the Wave on the field and off the field. A lot of issues going on. But they walked the field at Snapdragon last Thursday, and they felt the field was unplayable. And then the NWSL got involved, and they go, yeah, it's unplayable. How can this happen in San Diego? How can this happen? Now, the thing that they're telling me, and I knew this, San Diego State owns the Snapdragon. They've got, facility managers of Snapdragon, but they outsource the field. It's a third party. And it's, like I mentioned, the grass was installed a month ago. And it's been outsourced to Oakview Group, management group hired by San Diego State. Now think about this. You got a football game coming up on Friday. You've got another game, towards the end of the month against Air Force. I think it is at the end of the month. And then you've got the high school football championships there. One game, the open division. And then you got the Holiday Bowl. And then you've got soccer. And in this coming year, we're going to have a San Diego FC coming in, along with the Wave. I mean, they got to get this thing under control. This was embarrassing. I don't know about you, but I was embarrassed. We got this nice stadium, and all of a sudden, it's supposed to be a home game. I wonder how much money it costs the Wave to lose all the attendance for their final game of the year and having to fly to Louisville on short notice. I mean, it costs the Wave a lot of money. That's on that management group. That's on San Diego State. It's on Snapdragon Stadium. They gotta do better. They've got to do better, folks. That's unacceptable. Could you imagine wanting to go to Petco Park? And I know this would never happen, but can you imagine wanting to go to Petco Park and the grass is coming up, and all of a sudden they send out a note, hey, tonight's ball game, we can't play because the field is unplayable. That's ridiculous. That should never happen in San Diego. It's not like it's rained. It's not like we've got bad weather here. I mean, they got to figure this out. Maybe they got to get a new management team. Maybe Oakview can't get the job done. But that's a bunch of crap. Wave lost a lot of money, and franchises like that can't afford to take a hit like that. They really can't. All right, we got a few more questions. We'll duck those in. If not, we're going to get out of here today and get on with our day. All right, let's take a look. Doozer 619, Coach, SDSU games are expensive. High school games are more competitive for more for your buck. I would agree. I don't know what it, because I don't pay to park there. I don't know what they cost, but I know the tickets right from the get-go 3 years ago were out of line. They've tried to make it a little bit cheaper, but you know what? You got to make it even cheaper. I mean, when you're announcing 25 and you have 17, that's not good. I mean, they drew more back in the middle 70s at old Qualcomm Stadium than they draw now. I don't know how that can be, but it is. Even when they were winning with Rocky Long, people still weren't coming. They still weren't coming. Blue Meanie, when are they going to announce Rookie of the Year? It should be coming down here really quick. I haven't looked at the actual date now. Jackson Merrill's won a couple of those Rookies of the Year. He won the Sporting News Rookie of the Year. He won the Major League Players Association Rookie of the Year, and I would certainly think he would win the Major League Baseball Rookie of the Year. We'll see what MLB does. See if they can stiff the Padres again on a national award. Wouldn't surprise me. Mike Lopez, Blue Jays are entering the bidding war for Juan Soto. Yes, they are. How about this? Juan Soto. You got Toronto, or her becoming kind of the American League San Francisco Giants. They went after Ohtani. They're going after all these big guys and they get nobody for the most part. Okay. They're in it. Philadelphia's in it. Of course, the Dodgers are in it. The Giants, the Mets, and the Yankees. I don't think the Dodgers will go after Juan Soto. They're not going to pay that guy $600 or $700 million. In fact, is any team really going to give this guy $600 million? I don't see it. He was up for a Gold Glove again. Remember when he came to the Padres from Washington? He was a Gold Glove finalist that year. And John Smoltz called him out. He goes, yeah, this guy's turning singles into doubles and doubles into triples when he was comparing him to Mookie Betts out there in right field. But we'll see. Blue Jays, man, I give the Blue Jays a lot of credit. And I do think the Giants will pay a ton of money. They would overpay maybe to get Juan Soto. Why? Because they got to get a big name guy up there. If I'm Juan Soto, I'm not going to San Francisco. Not that I don't like San Francisco, but man, that's a tough place to hit balls out of, being a left-hand hitter. Sasaki will join LA. Worst kept secrets than Shohei join BC. You're probably right on that. But we'll do a little more digging between now and Wednesday's show. We'll definitely do that. But again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We've done very, very well on YouTube, our San Diego Sports Talk, the John Quintero Show. And again, please subscribe to the channel. Very much appreciate that if you would. And again, you can follow me on Facebook at John Quintero, and you can follow me on X at Coach Quintero 44. Thank you very much for listening. Now, remember, I'll be back in on Wednesday. And remember, today, free agency opens up at 2:00. This is like Christmas in November. I love free agency. I mean, I love everything about baseball. As soon as the last out of the World Series, I can't wait for middle of February with pitchers and catchers. And now we got the off season. We got the general managers meetings getting underway. We'll keep you up to date on that. But again, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you again bright and early on Wednesday morning. Have a great day, and talk to you Wednesday, everyone. Bye-bye.